because me personally, I'd like to be touring the States right now. I'd like to be touring Europe. I want to tour while I'm young. So nataka nipatie watu States nikiwa na nguvu. Nisikuje huko hata nikiimba sauti iliisha.
And people will not show up. So that's one thing that you have to learn. So kama una come hivi, you know, like I advise you, your first trip, make it a trip whereby like you're building your value. Hata kama you're not gonna make money out of it, because we've seen these complaints from promoters, and we know because we've physically been to some of those events, and then unaangalia hata kama watu wanalipa $50 per head kwa hii show, there's no way that they're gonna get enough money to be able to pay
ROI
to pay these artists.
No.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to come to Omosh to maybe talk a little bit about that, so that also Kenyan artists will understand, because
this is a very important conversation.
So that's a good thing. What about touring? Kuna time wasanii wa Kenya walikuwa wanakuja na tour sana US. What's going on that side? Nikuwa mtaki kuja huku ama
okay. Na like convo manzi, because this is something I'm really passionate about. Nilikuwa na one of the things I've been saying, mi naonanga, and I don't mean any shade, but naonanga wasanii wa Kenya wanatua wakiwa 45 years old ndo wanaenda States tour. Kama msana miaka chwani nashindwa mbona career iliisha 10 years ago ndio anaenda tour. Mi sitaki kuwa that type of person, and I think we've had conversations with promoters, and one of the things my team and I were saying is we need to make sense for both parties. Yeah, I think there's normally the disconnect is what an artist thinks their worth is, or feels is their worth, and what can actually be paid to make the whole thing work. So one of the things I've been discussing with different promoters, or rather my team has been discussing with different promoters, just from my end, I told my team, let's just make this thing happen for now. The most important thing at this point in time is to export. Let's find a compromise. So for example, I like performing with my own band. I have a band I've practiced with for so long, and I like performing with them. However, it's not easy to come to the States with 5 more people, considering ROI and everything, you know. So what do? Maybe we come to the States, I come with my what is it called, music director, and we get a band in the States. That way we've made it cheaper for everyone, and now we're performing a live set with a band, but on the budget is cheaper because we're not transporting all those people there. So I think the disconnect has always been people are not willing to compromise. And I've had conversations with Nigerian acts who've told me, initially we weren't paid what we wanted because we had to sacrifice. We had to sacrifice and be like, okay, listen, I want, say, let's just throw around a figure. I want 5 million Kenya shillings, yeah. But if I'm paid 5 million Kenya shillings, this promoter is not able to make profits. He's not able to take me to these places that he wants to take me to. If I tell him I want to bring my entourage of 20 people, it becomes unaffordable. He can't take me. So what do? I compromise. I reduce the number of people I go with. I reduce the amount I'm paid. But what I've done, I go out there with a mission. My mission is simple. I want these people to see my performance and see what I'm doing. By the time I'm coming next time, my value is not the same, you know. So I think it's just compromises that need to be made between organizers, the event organizers, the promoters, and the artists to export this music, because we're working as a team. Na kwa tu genuine na each other. I think that's the thing. Just being genuine with each other, kwa honest, transparent, so that isikuwe pia ati mse mmoja anamecompromise na mwingine anaiba. Because these are the challenges as again to face. Yeah, but I think just compromising on making it work. Because me personally, I'd like to be touring the States right now. I'd like to be touring Europe. I want to tour while I'm young. So nataka nipatie watu States nikiwa na nguvu. Nisikuje huko hata nikiimba sauti iliisha.
Well, that's an interesting point, and I'm gonna come here to to DJ Omosh Fire because we tunajuana now promoters, you know, like, and actually, you know, like there's a whole
this guy and promoters.
There's a whole
throws me in.
There's a whole WhatsApp group that we are in where they all candidly talk about these issues, whereby wanasema, you know, like honestly, ile do huyu msanii anaitisha, there's not gonna be a return on investment, you know. So why would we kill? And I'll tell you another thing that people maybe in Kenya don't know, and I don't know whether I should be saying this. Unaona our wasanii wa Tanzania wakubwa, guess what? Their shows are flopping in the US. And yeah, they're flopping in the US, and I'm just so hiyo ya Nandi, I was one of the people who was there. Na hata sijui hiyo video ilikufikiaje. Hiyo ya Nandi was back in 2018. And I remember that same night.
Was I there too?
No, you are not there. Your night, I'm telling you, total number of people, including bouncers, bartenders, ilikuwa kama 22.
You guys are mean.
Yeah, that's total, including
22.
Yeah, including the people who are working
you guys
there.
Are mean.
So I remember that night candidly because kulikuwa kuna nyesha, and then it was the same night that it was the first fight. Kulikuwa na boxing, kulikuwa na fight ya Deontay Wilder na Tyson Fury. So that was the first mistake. So Mimi, it was the same night. It was the first, and then now the thing, the venue wasn't showing that fight. So hapa, this is gonna become a problem because that was the big thing that was happening. So hiyo kitu iliflop, na hata mimi niko surprised kwa ulipata hizo nini, ulipata hizo picha, because pia mimi nilikuwa contacted nikaambiwa Rosafi hizo picha usisambaze. And you know me I was kind, because you know, like I know the promoters na nini, nikasema okay sawa, and that's the thing that I also like about Tanzanians, wanajua kufichiana aibu zao. Like no one knew, because kulikuwa na show, yani ilisikikana tu kulikuwa na show, but no one knew ever knew what happened.
The resultant features.
No one ever knew what happened. Yeah, hiyo show nakumbuka, I think kina Delphine were there. There was a couple, I even remember, like I remember all the people who were there because we were there as a group.
We've been to the ones with the larger artists.
Yes. So unaona na one thing na huku states, like huku ndo kule wanasema vishindo vya mashua havishtui bahari. So any mashua unatoka kule umetoka, but huku ni bahari. By the way, this place does not respect any big name.
They don't care.
Especially hii market yetu hapa DMV does not respect any big name. If you don't do the right marketing, if you don't do the right, you will have a very big name.
Yeah, DMV is bad.
And people will not show up. So that's one thing that you have to learn. So kama unakam hivi, you know, like I advise you, your first trip, make it a trip whereby like you're building your value. Hata kama you're not gonna make money out of it, because we've seen these complaints from promoters, and we know because we've physically been to some of those events, and then unaangalia hata kama watu wanalipa $50 per head kwa hii show, there is no way that they're gonna get enough money to be able to pay
ROI
to pay these artists. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to come to Omosh to maybe talk a little bit about that, so that also Kenyan artists will understand. Because
this is a very important conversation, because you know we never, so, and that's why I was saying I think it's very important to have the converse, because you see we know from our end, si tunajua mimi nataka na mi si kila msee anafikiria kama mimi, unajua mimi naifikiria mimi nataka kwenda kujenga jina huko, nataka kuona niaje na yani the most important thing for me ni kufika huko nionyeshe what I can do, but si kila msee anaona hivyo. So maybe ni important to get perspective, unasema kaya Omosh ku understand, like
Omosh,
how is it now on the ground?
You know, traditionally, vile umesema, you raised a very good point, and it's normally an issue na wasanii ambayo wako na band yao. You've been practicing with this band for a long time. They back you up, but logistically, or should I say financially, fiscally, it does not make sense to get all, I would say, you know, if they are all key people, all 5 folks on a plane with their instruments to come stateside, yet you could have, like you said, your musical director come with you and you have these bands that can, and meanwhile Mumushawa tumia matracks, they are practicing, then when you guys come, you close you complete the deal. Almost Ali, this reminds me of Smithsonian.
Yes.
Remember when the Kenyan artists had come for Smithsonian, when you had people like Eric Wainaina playing with Atemi as his backup singer. Eric didn't have his band. So they practiced where they had actual artists who are on their own, but they are backing up the other person.
They're backing each other up.
Because things were tight.
Yeah.
And then there was almost like one band wanna share, almost like a Coke Studio does, where they have like a house band, and then everybody else comes and uses them. And so getting folks to understand that it's possible to still give the live experience, but come this side, and then you find a band, because wasani band members or guys who are here who play wako wengi. You have Lingala guys, you have Niger guys, they are wako wengi. Yes,
even high school bands.
They're here.
Even high school bands, yeah.
I mean, Samba Mapangala is based from here, and he has guys who even play with him. There are some guys who even came from Kenge who are around, So it's just a matter of fusing with these folks and understanding that there's no one who's going to spend, like $10,000 to $15,000 on tickets just to bring band members, and you have not broken even. You have not sold a show yet. So for Kenyans to understand that, or Kenyan artists to understand that, these are the things that people are dealing with when they traverse, when you come over with by plane, and then you come and you hit a place like DC, then someone has to market you. Someone has to sit down and say, okay, you know what, Charisma is coming. So I want to blast chaps with, but I can't walk around to the radio stations with Charisma's tracks and say, hey guys, by the way, here I have an artist who's coming and here are his tracks, because that's not the audience. But then it's not like there's a Kenyan radio station, so you have to figure out creative ways of reaching these folks and hitting them up prior to you hitting the ground. So and that's a large issue that we have. And with our promoters, normally it's like, okay, the promoter has his people, he sends the flyers out, he says this guy is coming, there's a video that's done, and then you assume that that's gonna work. Well, what about the people who don't have social media? What about the people who, some people actually literally need even a phone call? You pick the phone up and you tell them, by the way, I have a band that's coming, and this, and these guys are gonna be in speedy yako. Go get your babysitters now. In 3 weeks, this guy is landing. So those are like some of the things that promoters need to do. But back in the day, you didn't have social media. Now, if somebody uses WhatsApp, they use maybe IG, Facebook, and they say, okay, I've promoted.
Yeah.
We don't even see flyers. When's the last time you saw a flyer?
No, you don't see flyers. And those are the risky type of promotions where it could either be a boom or a bust.
Correct. And it also depends on who you have on your speed dial. Na kuna wale watu sema, you know what? I never even knew that this thing happened. Some folks come into town and they'll call me and say, at midnight, someone will send me a message and say, Omosh, what's happening tonight? I'm like, okay, I didn't even know you were in town.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, well, what is your flavor? What do you feel like doing? Then they tell me I'm trying to do, say, okay, well, if you like Niger music, you can go here. If you want this, if you just want a club experience that gives you everything, go here. The venue is nice. It'll be maybe pricey at the door. Drinks could be expensive, but you will enjoy yourself if you go to this place because it's a rooftop. It has this, it has that, So those are some of the intricate things that we deal with. And then Harper in this area, and like a lot of areas, we're spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
Extremely spoiled for choice. Kuna mali unaweza enda hata kuna cover, unaingia tu kaa umetembea na hata kuna band. Na kuna mali kabla uingie unachota 30 bob. Hata kabla ukohoe na drink yenyewe ni 15 bob. So you've already spent 45 bob na namba ya demu hujapata. So, there are some things that are just the reality of today's market, and anybody who's going into it, whether it's artist or promoter, you kind of have to know. And then who is your DJ? And is this DJ of yours also a force to reckon with, a promoter themselves, or someone, or they have a following? Ama ni mtu ambayo anacheza mziki, na hajulikani.
Yeah.
So those things also matter with, you know, vile uliuliza ukasema ati okay, so show ikimalizika kuna DJ atacheza ama nani, you know, so also are you gonna get an act to open for you? So some of those things matter, but live bands, I always say I love live bands. Live bands always sell. Mika.
No, what I'm saying is tell you, almost what you finished up by saying is, the promoters also create value for the artist and for the show.
Correct.
Like when you bring in an artist into the country, you do not just bring an artist based on how they're performing in Kenya. You are supposed to. That is in Kenya is in big, but then you're supposed to understand that when you're bringing them here, you're transitioning here, you have to create a value to the audience over here to understand, so that they can see why is the value of them going to that show to watch that artist's perform. Why should I not take a shift that day and go out and watch that artist? So you have to create that value for them, and I think that is where most of the promoters over here fail, is in creating the value. Even if it's not an artist, even just for the regular shows that they're doing on a Saturday or on Friday with their DJs, is you don't create that value for that person, right? As Omosha said, there's a lot of choices. So if I know that if I go to Adams Morgan and I've spent my $100 in Adams Morgan, I'm finding more value than going to a club in Silver Springs, even though driving to Adams Morgan is farther for me. But the value of Adams Morgan is what attracts me there. So I would rather pay that extra $20 on Uber to go there than go to Silver Spring, and I don't see any value of it because of the value. Like whoever's doing that party over there, the marketing well. So we also have to find a way in ourselves on how we are creating the value. As in, not to brag or anything, this show has hosted a lot of artists. We have artists who, when they come in this country, run to this show because they know, they themselves understand that I will not even not trust the promoter alone. Like I know the promoter done his job, but then if I go over there and people know that I'm coming to perform, and I go over there, I create a value of my show.
No.
Right, and these are big name artists who are like we have big name Tanzanian artists who run to this show whenever they come to the country because they know the value of, like, if I come and do this, we have Kenyan artists who when they come here they run to the show. But the thing is simple is the promoters have to come and do that. They have to come and start learning how to create the value of an artist or the value of their show. Just don't assume that people know me, my friends on Instagram and everything, and no.
Yeah.
You want to be like, this is the go-to event that I want to go. You want to what somebody thinks of. If somebody feels like I want to listen to reggae, and then get to Kagari and I end up. Simple as that.
Yeah, so to add on what Mika has said, Yani, I think for an artist like you, and actually to piggyback on what Mika said, we actually had Ali Kiba, who had not toured the US for so many years, such that when he was coming back, and remember Ali Kiba is a big name, these people touched all bases, you know, like his people contacted us well in advance, you know, and told us, man, kuna vile, and we're like, okay, sawa, mleteni Ali Kiba. So they were doing this all in advance. Like this was like, by the time when we got the first contact, it was like at least 2 months before he had landed in the US. You know, they were already preparing the lay of the land. And remember, this is Ali Kiba. He's a big name. But you make no assumptions. I'm in a business where, you know, like we are good at what we do. Now, this is outside music, but I asked the CEO of my company, what is it that keeps you awake at night? And he told me, I don't know what I thought he would have said, but he told me that it's a thought, and the company that I'm working in, we're doing like $30 to $40 million a year. He told me it's a thought of not being sure if we're going to sell a product tomorrow. And this is a product that we have orders in advance, but he tells me that because everything, even when we are selling, there are no assumptions that are being made. We are still going out to trade shows. We are still, you know, like contacting our old clients. We are still searching for new markets. There's no assumptions. So for someone like you who's never been to the States, I think when you get an opportunity to come the first time, you need to have like at the bare minimum a 3-month plan. I don't see why you should come to the States and then leave after 2 weeks. I usually see that happen sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how those performance visas are done sometimes. But if you can stay, I tell you stay for 3 months. You need to know the lay of the land. And uempole, because there's some artists who are big at home, so wanaanza kuongea mambo, I want to live in a 5-star hotel na nini. That now
and performances are weekends,
yeah,
which means
you only
have,
the week
you only have 3 days or 2 days to perform.
Yes, you only have 3 or 2 days to perform, and then during the week you have to stay somewhere. So I tell people, be humble enough and have a plan. There are so many cities here where you have Kenyans. Learn the cities and then figure out where you're gonna be staying in each city. Unajua ukikuja DMV kuna Mika yuko hapa, kuna Ali, ukienda Texas kuna mtu fulani namjua huko. So you need to have like an itinerary where you're not just an itinerary based on where you're going to be performing, but an itinerary where you're also going to these cities, getting to know the Kenyans, getting to know where they go, getting to understand the African clubs, getting to know the culture of these clubs. Because this is what, guess who was doing this not too long ago? Burna Boy.
Exactly.
Yes, Burna Boy was doing this. He was in Houston. He was in different cities, just living in friends' houses and going to random places, just learning and understanding. So I think with that you get higher value. And then when you get contact with these different promoters and these different DJs, and then I think another critical thing, if you partner with someone like, let's say, a DJ Shinsky or a DJ Sunny Sistuki, they already have crowds that follow them in the different cities they go. So now unaweza kudandia crowd because you're already a good musician. Once people know you, now they know Charisma. Yes, of course they know DJ Shinsky, but now they know who Charisma is. So that next time you're going there, they already know who Charisma is. So so this is something that that needs to be replanned and reassessed. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and the great thing is we've had a lot of conversations about this actually. I tell you, like in a DJ Shinsky, to me, I've used a convo like, who are the DJs who have like an audience in the States here? So how can we tap into them I think I've had convos with some of them. So I'd like for you to have my music. What would it take for you to, even if it's discussions just even on a financial scale, like what is it I'm able to do? What can you do for me and things like that. And I think, so for me, the biggest thing, and I think it's a thing, and if you ask me, I can let you know, it's a thing I already accepted and I'm very willing to do already, is the compromise part, like just doing everything to make it work, because I think at this point in time, the thing about us is we do everything not to make it work. You understand?
Yeah.
So just doing everything to make it work, so that if, say, Omosh is the one I'm talking to and he wants to make sure Charisma is in the States, we've had discussions. So I'm a live band performer. He said live band performers do well there. However, we've already established that I have a band that has 5 people. It's impossible. I have a team that has 4 people. I can't, 10 people, flying in 10 people,
no,
won't make sense. So what can we do? So I have my MD, who's the most integral part of the music director, most integral part of the set. There's a lot of amazing instrumentalists in the state, far much better than what even we probably have here. We just go there, teach people our music. If I need someone from my team, we talk to them. If even to sweeten the deal sometimes, because it's convos we've had, and maybe I won't even mention the names, but and Nika knows, however, even packaging, just me and maybe another act, so that we create more value, So instead of just it being me, so let me give an example. So you say a Charisma and a Bensol, we've come, you've created more value, people, and you're still going with the same approach of being, of compromising and not being greedy about it and thinking long term. Because I think that's the most important thing. We're not thinking now. Whiskey, during that same time, I told you, as guys met him, he was like, bro, we go to the States and don't make even half the money we make back home. But the thing is, we know once we crack that state code, that's it.
Yeah.
It's also and now those guys are international acts, all of them. You know, Wizkid is recognized all over the world.
Everywhere,
Banabo is recognized all over the world. David all over the world, and it's because of those sacrifices. And if there's a time to sacrifice, it's now. So, and that's why I was telling you guys, I don't want to be 45 at Indio Nanza to realize, God damn, I should sacrifice and go to the States.
We're not going to mention names.
But I'll say this. I mean, you know, the Rolling Stones are still touring even in their 70s.
No, but
I get what you're saying.
I get
what
kind of tour is different.
But I was thinking on this also, like, you know, sometimes I think a good resource is somebody or people who have already done it before. And comes to mind Jabali Africa.
So I think people who've done it before, there's a mixed bag. There are some people who are very bitter. It's a mixed bag, and I think part of the problem within the industry is that there's not enough sharing of information. You know, hata kama mimi nimeenda nimefail.
That's what I was mentioning.
Kama mimi nimeenda nimefail, I think it would add value if I go talk to the artist and mwambie, mazee mkienda huko, do this and that. Don't do this and that. I think there's not enough of sharing information because I don't know where the disconnect is, because there was a time when Kenyan artists used to come back to back. So right now we have LS7s coming up. With the dates are not out. They're not quite out there.
Right.
But the dates for LS7s are not out, so we don't know. I think Vancouver is out, but we are still waiting for it. So it's gonna be either March or maybe late February. We don't know. But that's already a known. So I think now that we're approaching October, this would be the time to kind of start. I think the problem right now is that we don't have a specific date, but kind of tentatively just know that there will be this event and an artist will be performing, because Kenya already were huko. You know?
Yeah.
It's like they're already there. You know, like they're already there and they're motivated. You know, so it's not like ati unatafuta watu. LA is a weird place, you know, like for Kenyans. It's not like Vegas.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't have the flexibility.
It doesn't have the flexibility of Vegas, because Vegas, like hata kama ni mapromota watatu wanne, it's across the road, because they're all at the same place. Ukibweka na huyu unavuka tu barabara unaenda next. But LA is a big city. One show could be 1 hour away. So when promoters start infighting and split, then it becomes a problem. So those are just issues now that you have to learn along the way. But sasa, I think LA would be a good place to come, not even necessarily even to perform, but just to get to meet people. To get to meet people and to understand. And then that could be the start of knowing kuna Minnesota, kuna DMV market, kuna Dallas. So now this is where you start. And these plans, kuna Atlanta, you start making these plans before you come. Not vile tumefika, ndo unaanza kuwa plans.
Just so that we don't get lost about it. I think, as you said, the thing about the touring in Kenya is that, I mean, on both sides, people have been aggrieved. There's a lot of artists when wamekuja states wakachwa huko hawakulipwa vitu kama hizo. So I think tu ni pia kukuwa na industry yenye wase wote wana work diligently. As I said, honest and transparent. And just to correct something, when I said I don't want to tour at 45, I don't mean like it's wrong for me. I've not toured all my career. I'm only starting at 45. You see, the Rolling Stones only tour all their careers. Like they've toured all their careers, but it normally feels like Mkenya una work ndo ufike 45 ndo utoke. Na sidhani hiyo ndo reality ya situation. Ni si tu tunakata kuifanya i work. So I think from both sides, if we can find a middle ground and work together and just kukona compromise both sides, but kila mse akwe comfortable, ama kila mtu atoke na value, because at the end of the day value ndo important.
Yeah.
Unajua?
Yeah, anyway,